It is widely believed that the success of any rugby player and team comes down to the amount of time they spend on the training field and in the gym. While this is important, the accomplishments achieved by any team and in any sport often comes down to the training an athlete receives when it comes to their visual skills. To discuss this fascinating side of rugby and sport, the Rugby Business Network has the great pleasure of speaking to leading sports scientist and visual skills coach, Dr. Sherylle Calder. Sherylle, thank you for joining us. It truly is an honor.
Cool. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Well, Sherylle, you are considered as one of the most successful people in sport. Although, strangely enough, not many sports-loving fans might have heard of you, but they would have most definitely seen the impact that you have had on professional athletes. Where did your interest in sports science come from before receiving your PhD from the University of Cape Town?
I think, as a kid, I was always intrigued by how do you do things, how do you judge things, why do you react in that way, etc. So it's kind of been in me since I was young. And then obviously played a lot of hockey and completed my studies. And so I think it's a combination of a whole lot of stuff. But I think having that intrigue about things from an early age.
Well, you are now the founder of iGym. Please could you inform our listeners how your online visual intelligence training company works, and is it just aimed at professional athletes?
Well, it started off as mainly aimed at the elite athlete, the professional athlete. But out of that, it's really grown because we found that by helping elite, we've impacted other skills other than just sporting skills. And out of that, we started working with kids in a whole mix of a combination of different professions. iGym is online, so iGym.com. You can go on the internet and you get enough information there. You can email us and we'll always get back to you. So it's more accessible today than it was 15 years ago, where I really worked with professional sportsmen as they asked me to work with them. So most of it was really word of mouth. Out of that, iGym then grew.
Well, for nearly 22 years now, iGym has been around and has grown and assisted so many top teams and sports individuals across the world. For you personally, Sherylle, are you still involved in the practical sports science side of the company, or over the years have you swayed a little bit more towards the business side of things?
No, I'm definitely very involved still on the practical sports side. Also doing, as I said, a lot of offshoots out of that. I'm not as involved in the technical running of the iGym online program. We have people helping us with that and a lot of companies, helping us develop it. But the science as that, I'm very much still involved in.
Well, many people would possibly say that you are best known for the part you played in the England rugby team and assisting them win the 2003 Rugby World Cup. And then in the lead up to the 2007 tournament, you assisted the Springboks in winning their second trophy. How did these two teams compare in terms of the areas you had to focus on in their visual intelligence training?
Not much. I mean, rugby remains rugby. But the exciting thing about my work is that every individual is different. And my work involves not working with a team overall, but working with each player individually, improving their basic skills, and then that contributing to some of the on-field stuff. And then I obviously combine with coaches and management within the team and assist where I can. For example, line-out throwing, restarts, kicking, etc. So I add an extra edge there as well.
Amazing. Well, you are now contracted with the RFU once again, and you're assisting the England players up until the 2019 Rugby World Cup. You only joined the team at the beginning of this year. Does this give you enough time to train the players to win the tournament as you did with them in 2003?
Yes, definitely does. I mean, the exciting thing, as I say again, with my skills, I work with the individual, and then in the team context carry that out. But time-wise, more than enough time. So what I do, I'm trying to get the fitness levels, the visual motor fitness levels up to standard, and then just top it up with the edge, leading up to the 2019 World Cup. Yeah, it's exciting, and probably my main task is to make sure that players make quick, effective decisions under pressure. Quicker you can make a decision, the more time you have to execute.
Definitely. Now, Sherylle, when we're talking about you going into rugby teams, whether it's England or any other team for that matter, how much time are we looking at per day, per week, per month for these players to put in the work when it comes to their visual training?
We really periodise their training for them. So, for example, with the England guys, we'll be teeing up with them towards the end of October. We work with them 3 times a year at the moment. So we'll be just topping up on those skills that they already gained during, the past 9 months that we've been working with them.
Wow, achieving results in just that amount of time is brilliant. Well, Sherylle, apart from the incredible work you have done with international and professional rugby clubs, I have to mention that you've also helped train football teams, cricket teams, netball teams, the Miami Dolphins in the NFL, cyclists, tennis players, pro golfers, field and ice hockey teams, Formula One teams, Olympic teams, and I could have possibly left some out. In that list I just rattled off, there are teams and there are individual athletes. How do they compare when it comes to their training? Do you follow the same set of rules and lessons, or does a team sport act differently to an individual sport?
I work with the individual and on their strengths and weaknesses and trying to improve them. Definitely, teams and individuals very different. For example, with the golfers, I spend a lot of one-on-one time, which I don't get as much of that in a team sport. That is the difference. So the more time I can spend with the individual, the more I can guarantee their success.
Well, to follow up on that, and you've possibly just touched on it there, how does training rugby players compare with the other sports you have been involved with? Are there more similarities or differences?
No, very similar. If you're thinking about a rugby player taking a restart, they're huge pressures. You've got to judge where the ball is in space. You've got to account for opponents. You've got to account for getting up at the right time, getting your timing right. Your eye-hand coordination's got to be absolutely spot on. It would be the same as an opening batsman facing the ball and having to judge line and length, etc., and make a decision based on what he's seeing. Pretty similar, but, you adapt it according to the sport.
Fascinating. Well, the majority of the sports that I have mentioned that you've been involved with all have something in common, and that is they all involve a ball of some size and shape. However, when it comes to sports such as boxing and swimming, is visual intelligence training necessary for that?
Oh, absolutely. We're actually helping a young boxer in the UK at the moment, and I'll leave his name out for now. I'll let you know later. But the earlier he can see a punch coming in his direction, the sooner he can get out of the way or counteract it or whatever. And you can actually train the eye to pick up information early. And then obviously you've got to base a decision, do you move back, do you counter-respond, etc. So it's absolutely crucial, and it doesn't always involve a ball. I did work with the Prada America's Cup yachting team. A lot of people say, well, what influence does that have? But there's a lot of balance, there's a lot of eye-hand coordination, there's tons of decision-making, there's reading of depth, there's reading, the wind on the water. So those are all huge visual motor decision-making skills that you use.
That is very fascinating. Well, from the sports and the array of clubs and countries you have assisted so far, Sherylle, be it team or individual, which others that you have not been involved with yet would you relish the opportunity to assist should they ever call on you?
It'd probably be unfair to single anything out, but probably I love golf, so I would like to do a lot more in golf. It's also individual and it's one-on-one, so it makes my work that much easier. Probably a top tennis player. We've been really successful with Kevin Anderson, and he's done pretty well. But probably to work on a more full-time basis with the elite tennis player would be great.
And is there a sport that you haven't ventured into yet that you think you could provide the best possible assistance through your visual training program?
I've just about worked across the board. You're probably going to laugh at me, but I've worked with dog agility and cross-country running and fly fishing and, a lot of different sports which people think, don't need any performance skills. I'm happy to work with anyone who wants to improve their performance.
Oh, that's great. Well, the application of your visual intelligence training at iGym does go beyond sport. In what ways could the visual skills development you offer be implemented when it comes to something like business to improve their productivity and growth?
Yeah, we've done quite a lot of work. We ran a really exciting project with Nedbank, a big banking company in South Africa, and we're improved the productivity of the workers. We're also doing a lot of work with Discovery, and within the Discovery Insure, we've brought down their loss ratio in claims on iGym users between 20 and 25%. So it has a huge impact on business. Big CEOs, big businessmen have to think on their feet. And that really involves taking information in, processing it correctly, and then responding, also making a decision. So it impacts every single person that's involved in any way that they use their eyes.
And comparing rugby and sport to business, is it the same sort of skills training that you use across both, or do you individualize when it comes to business as opposed to rugby?
Yeah, you would individualize, and as I say, the individual has different strengths and weaknesses, and you would be good at skills which I'm worse at, and vice versa. So we just make sure we bring all the skills up to standard, which then impacts your overall decision making and overall performance.
Well, Sherylle, you are well travelled, having been to so many sports teams all over the globe during your career. Are you able to share with us a story or an experience that stands out for you that perhaps keeps you motivated to continue improving and adapting your skills and expertise as a sports scientist?
Oh, there are actually so many, but probably one of the most exciting times in my career was when I helped Ernie Els win the British Open. And when I started with him beginning of the year, he was about to give up golf, and people around him had said, "You're not good enough, and you can't putt," and et cetera, et cetera. And to get him to actually winning the major on that Sunday by sinking a 15-foot putt, and just seeing the impact on his career, that is probably a bit of a cherry on the top in my working career.
Wow, incredible. Well, Sherylle, being a woman, you're obviously going into professional sports teams that are quite male-dominated and could be intimidating at times. Have you ever experienced any sort of intimidation based on your gender?
I think it just happens in general. I don't think it's purely because I'm a woman. I always say that I'm an expert at something, and if I'm a guy or a girl, it doesn't really matter. It's about the knowledge I have and how I can impact your performance. So there are always trying times in any job, irrespective of your gender. So there were times, but it didn't deter me from getting on with my job.
No, that's great to hear. Well, finally, Sherylle, as I mentioned at the start, iGym has been going for over 20 years now. With so much having been achieved so far, what is the aim going forward, and what is there still to be accomplished for you?
There's an absolute ton. I mean, if you think about sport, it's a very tiny percentage of what goes on in the world. There are many people to impact. We impact cognitive skills. So we have a huge impact on students and kids' learning skills. We impact drivers. We impact just about every person. As I say, if you use your eyes for anything, we can improve your performance. And there are tons of people out there that should be training eye-brain skills on a regular basis, because I think you've heard me say that we live in the era of digital decline. So spending a lot of time on digital devices is deteriorating the skills specifically that I train. If you use a mobile phone, you need to be training these skills. So, or if you use computers, et cetera, we're losing our awareness. Kids aren't playing outside anymore. So those natural skills that you normally pick up from walking on a wall and falling off and learning the skill, we're not doing that anymore. So we're trying to accelerate the performance of every individual that's using all these modern devices, which then directly impacts visual motor, awareness, decision-making, peripheral, you name it, all those skills.
Well, it does sound like there is still plenty more to be accomplished, and thank goodness there are sports scientists like you and a company like yours in iGym that is there to provide assistance. Well, Sherylle, rugby fans always want to hear what the players and the coaches are doing to make their team win. And if you are involved with that team, well then, I'm pretty sure the answer is clear. Thank you for such an amazing opportunity to hear about the phenomenal work you are doing in sport, and the Rugby Business Network wishes you many more years of making a significant difference to professional athletes through iGym.
Thank you so much. As you know, rugby's in my blood, so I love doing the work that I do, and thank you for chatting to you guys.